Ladies and gentlemen, grab your drinks and popcorn. Today's feature is about to begin. Welcome to Celluloid Codswallop. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Celluloid Codswallop. I am here, James, but also just to confuse people who first time listening, there's another James here.
Hello,
James. I'm here with James Higson. You're not going mad and hearing two distinct Jameses that are the same person.
No, I am not him putting on a voice.
And I'm not him putting on a voice. Although, interestingly, we have just been discussing Psycho, so...
That's only because you like putting on dresses.
Well...
Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to say... I wasn't supposed to say
No. That's why I turned the camera off.
It's lovely, folks. Tadpoles, it's gingham.
Yep.
You've got army boots on as well.
Cellar.
It's fab.
Yeah. So, for this episode, for those who cast their minds back to the Tadpoles, we ran a poll looking at a Jeff Bridges film. And the one that won out was a film called Tron Legacy. Now, Tron Legacy, I think we can already guess where James' view on this one is. But Tron Legacy is a sequel to the 1982 Disney film Tron. And it was one of these films that, as a sequel, took an oddly long time to be created. Now, that could be maybe it's because technology couldn't catch up in time. But Tron Legacy was a 2010 release. And from my standpoint, I always wanted to see this in the cinema. And I stupidly never did it. I kept forgetting to go and do it. So when it finally came out on home media, I got a chance to see it. So the film has an interesting cast. Jeff Bridges returns from the original Tron, as does Bruce Boxleitner, but in a much more reduced role. And to explain to people who don't know, Tron is all about computers and the inner workings of computer programs. But it makes it a bit different. So it's not just a guy sat at a computer. It asks the question, what would happen if you were drawn into the system? You were actually sucked into it. And that is what happens in the first Tron. And it becomes the issue in the second Tron, where it opens with, the character played by Jeff Bridges, who is a father. He has a child, and you see his family. And it's looking into the past, so you're into the 80s. You're supposed to be seeing it somewhat just after the first Tron. And
it's starts 1989, the year of my birth.
So 82 is when I was born, so Tron, the original, and Tron Legacy.
Yeah, but you were born 1882.
Well, that's true.
I'm on about
good for my age.
1989.
But yeah.
Have you missed us yet, James?
Elements of it, yes. So the film, Kevin Flynn, the main character played by Jeff Bridges, he's a master person. The nearest thing to compare him to for his ingenious abilities is, I guess he's sort of like maybe a bit of a Steve Jobs mixed with a Bill Gates.
It's more like Steve Jobs mixed with what Elon Musk thinks he is in his head. Kind of cool CEO. He rides a bike. He doesn't wear a helmet. He's got a leather jacket. He wears jeans all the time. He's kind of that laid back, I'm breaking the mold of CEO. That's the kind of character he's kind of portrayed as.
When you mentioned the lack of motorbike helmet, I thought about that when I was watching it recently. I thought, interesting. He gets on his motorbike, no helmet, just rides off. But it was the 80s.
It was the 80s, as they say in Bluey.
But we see what is an interesting thing is that obviously Jeff Bridges is an older chap. He's getting on, so they have to digitally de-age him. Now the problem you've got is that, well, not now with the eyes of now, it doesn't look very good. Whereas if we look at it at the time, that was pretty damn good, cutting edge tech.
I'm going to disagree with you only because I'm a PC gamer and I have seen pre-rendered cutscenes better animated. Like, that was all I could think of when I was watching it last night to refresh my memory. Well, actually, it was my first time viewing last night, so I had to watch Tron first to refresh my memory, and then watch Tron Legacy. It was almost like there was elements of rubber face, like there is a bit of rubber facing, and I personally, I cannot stand digital de-aging. I think it's a practice that has extremely nebulous connotations with the simple fact of, I do agree, like, it's one of those things of, it's a nice idea while the person is still alive, but that's how we end up with the Christopher Lee robot in Rogue One, and how we ended up with Carrie Fisher and Luke Skywalker in the new saga where they're doing flashbacks. I can't stand behind it ethically, because the idea, again, the de-aging, the person doesn't have to exist. Like, again, Ghostbusters in the new one, the reboot, technically part 3, Afterlife, that was it. They bring back Harold Ramis as a ghost, but he was portrayed on set by the director. That really creeped me out, because they were like, oh, it's an homage. And I'm like, no, you're wearing a dead man's face. It's creepy.
I like the way it described it that way. That's how I'm going to run with it from now. When it's somebody who's passed away, you're wearing a dead man's face.
Well, you are, because again, it's pointed out, like when you look at the film, when you watch Tron Legacy, the people portraying the characters are traditionally stunt actors. They're not the actual actors. Jeff Bridges did all of his lines as young Flynn, it's actually Clue, which, if you remember from the first film, was a program written to assist Flynn in maintaining the grid and perfecting it. All of those lines were done probably like on a green screen in a sound booth. He's not actually there. But the fact that they can do that, and they've gotten better at it, like we see in Ant-Man, they brought back Michael Douglas. They did it in the new Top Gun, because they managed to bring back Val Kilmer, and Val Kilmer's voice. That was creepy.
Well, they're not dead. In their defense of both those people.
No, I agree.
Just to give an idea to the tadpoles who we've probably thrown a load of confusion to. So we get to see that the characters, the main, obviously Kevin Flynn's the main character, and we get to meet his son as a little boy, and then it becomes apparent that Kevin has vanished. Kevin Flynn's vanished. The company has been taken over by other people working on it that he created.
Well, the shareholders. Goes to a board of CEOs. Like, he is technically the CEO. The son is named the CEO, but due to his age, obviously, with him being 7, I think he's about 7 or 8 when his dad disappears.
Yes.
So, because they say in the film he's 27.
Yeah.
So he's about 7 when they disappear, which wouldn't line up about right. 20 years going.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been run by a board. It's old-fashioned board. We're about profit margins. We're about all this stuff, and the film kind of opens back in modern day with we see Flynn's son breaking into his own business and basically hacking his own system and releasing a operating system that they were working on free on the internet right before the business was supposed to go live on the stock market.
Yeah, so it's like their version of Windows 11, should we say, getting released without
iOS.
Yeah. And I like the fact that, we get to see the returning Alan Bradley, who is played by Bruce Boxleitner, who I've got to, when you talk about de-aging people, I do have to take my hat off to them. Like, I've got to be honest, some of the scenes where they de-aged, well, most of the scenes, unfortunately, they de-aged Jeff Bridges were not cool. You see him doing like a talk to people. But there's a scene where Bruce Boxleitner is getting into a car with Flynn's son, why do I keep blanking on Flynn's son's name? But I can remember the actor, Garrett Hedlund, but not the
Yeah, it's because he's a two-dimensional cardboard cutout that we don't actually care about. That's why.
But there's a scene where you see a de-aged Bruce Boxleitner. I've got to be honest, that looked pretty good. Where he's just almost like a still shot. Sam, thank you. Yeah. So Alan Bradley's getting in the car with Sam when Sam's a little boy. And that shot, I was like, damn, that actually looks pretty realistic. It doesn't. Maybe it's just a very quick image. They might have just dyed his hair or something. For it.
Yeah, there's one of the,
and he's aged well. To be fair, when you look at him when he's older, he has aged well. It could be
a combination of stuff. I mean, obviously, like I know in the past they've used archive footage, so there may have been an old archive footage of him getting into a car where they were able to actually just splice in Sam as a young, because again he's portrayed by a young actor, so it could be just a case of they've actually spliced Sam into the shot, so it was old footage that they were able to recycle. So there is the possibility of that. So yeah, Sam proceeds
Sam's a badass. He's a rogue.
Oh yeah, he rides a motorbike like his dad, and he
does wear a helmet.
Buildings. He does. He does wear a helmet, but he doesn't work out that you shouldn't parachute onto a street where there's lampposts.
But you can land on top of a taxi.
You can land on top of a taxi and not smash all the windows, cave in the roof, and smash your shin bones through your kneecaps.
Yeah, it's like in The Dark Knight when Batman lands on top of a van and doesn't bounce off it.
No, that's different. He's Batman. Speaking of which, though, did you spot the surprise cameo in the boardroom?
Yes, Cillian Murphy. Murphy, sorry. Yes. Well, he was supposed to be some kind of relative, I believe.
He is the son.
Yes.
He is the son of the previous CEO, or like head of the board, from, I believe it's the guy who robbed it from Flynn in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's meant to be the son of him, which I kind of implies the whole thing of, so we're just basically remaking it?
Well,
it's the same plot point.
We've got to show some kind of nice interlink. I always get the impression that there is a third one on the way, but it looks like something markedly different.
Is that Ares?
Almost like a soft reboot, I think. But I think the original plan was to have like a real link to this one when they were going to make a third one, but they've changed their minds. But yeah, so we see Sam, who also, does Sam live in some kind of weird packing container or something?
I can't work out whether it's it's like a abandoned workshop. Like, like an old mechanic shop.
Yes.
With the big roller shutters. And he's just kind of repurposed it into his apartment.
Yeah, because remember, he's a multi-millionaire, but he's also a rebel.
Yeah, so he lives in this quick fit.
In the docks.
Yeah, he lives in...
With his
if only he lived in a van down by the river.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, in fact, really.
But where do you park a bike in a van?
Yeah, but to be fair, it would have been brilliant if they'd just resurrected Chris Farley to shout at him.
Well, give it time. I'm sure they'll run out of morals and not let dead people die.
To be fair, Disney owns everything. Yes.
Yeah,
I can see it happening.
Oh God, Disney already do. They own Uncle Buck. They own his likeness. I also like. Oh God.
Yep.
Oh God.
I like the fact that we did also just a little thing on Sam's being a badass biker and a helmet. He does actually have the Disney symbol of sorts on the back of his motorbike helmet.
Mm.
They do the callback thing before I forget of that's a big door.
Yeah. Which the comedy lines in this film are very few and far between. So when they do land and turn up, they really threw me for a loop. There's one in particular about the halfway point that we'll bring up when we get to it, but
yes.
It's just I had to pause for a minute and regroup and bring myself back in.
We get to see a nice interaction between Sam and it's Sam and Alan Bradley. Not the killer from Coronation Street, but the CEO of. Well, no, he's not. Is he? He's not the CEO. He's just a board member. Yeah, or something. He's like the board member.
COO or something. Yeah. He's the head of a different department. He applauds Sam because he agrees with him and says this is what your dad would have wanted. Progress over profit. So because he bails him out of jail after he gets arrested.
He must have been arrested a lot because he greets the guy in the car, the siege car.
Well, yeah, but I think that's kind of the thing of he's been his he's been his legal guardian. But I also agree with Sam when he's like, yeah, but I'm 27.
Yeah.
I could understand when I was 7 years old and I didn't have a dad.
Yeah,
I'm 27.
He says that, doesn't he? You were like my surrogate father.
Yeah, I'm 20. I'm 27. Because again, I would have left him in there, and then the film would never have happened. But yeah, so he does say, "I applaud you, but you're better than this. You are your son's father." And Alex reveals that he got a page, which they joke about obsolete technology.
Yeah, but Alan's still rocking the page.
Yeah, but because Alan was like, yes, because your father told me sleep with this thing. And he always did, ever since he disappeared, but the number's been disused for 20 years. So that leads Sam back to the arcade, where we get a nice little bit of a, again, little member berries of Flynn's arcade from when he was working originally. And Sam finds the secret hatch behind the Tron cabinet.
I mean, the other cool thing, when you mention the member berries, is like the music they have playing has like links to the previous
it has films. old 80s music playing. But yeah, he tries to because his dad gives him a coin just the night he disappears because he says, I'll get you ice cream. I'll pay for the first one. So he gives him a quarter. So Sam goes to put the quarter in the Tron game in the booth, but the machine spits it out. When he spits it out, he notices the scratch marks on the floor, which leads him to move the cabinet, finds the secret hatch. He goes down into the basement where he discovers I don't think it's the same laboratory, but it's the same setup.
Yeah.
It's the same set.
Very dusty.
It's very dusty, but still touchscreen.
That's the thing that I was like, yeah, this is definitely them using more modern technology because you'd be on clicky keys in the 80s.
I would have thought he would have stuck with that as well because, again, the way that he's got his like engineering diagram, it's very old-fashioned in the idea of redundancies and things like there's a big poster above the workstation that's called the grid. So he's got it all mapped out of how he was. Because obviously at the end of Tron, the first film, he saves the program from being deleted. So he is now.
I just did wacka wacka. I couldn't help but do the nod back to Pac-Man, which is in the film.
So he saved it, and now he's improving on it and building on it. So Sam starts blipping and entering code like a
he's typing into
hacker.
DOS, isn't he, basically?
Yeah, he's basically trying to do like backdoor logins, which is the failed cover band of Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins should have been on this soundtrack.
He should have been, but then it would have made it fun. Instead, we got Daft Punk. But yeah, so Sam inadvertently ends up activating the same laser that dragged his dad into the grid, and thus he is transported to the grid. Now, the grid has changed significantly from when we were last there, where it's now become my first Matrix.
I mean, I love it visually. I hate this film. Really? Because visually, I just like, it was like, oh, so good. So why do you hate it? Because I absolutely love it.
I hate it because now I know that sound that just came out of your mouth. But I genuinely hate it because it just feels like it doesn't feel original, It just looks like any cyberpunk dystopia, and at the same time, it still looks like it's trying to rip off the Matrix. The fact that everything's got a slightly blue haze to it, there's a heavy blue filter over everything, which kind of drew out the green filter that was used during the Matrix. The black leather gimp gear that everyone seems to be wearing, except it's because it's Disney, they can't have leather, so it's lycra.
Now, interesting when you mentioned the Matrix, though. When I look back at the Matrix films, I don't really dig them anymore. They don't do anything for me.
The only one that does for me is the original, because again, it's like there's only 3 Indiana Jones films, there's only 6 Star Wars films. You know, you just ignore the bad ones, because again, it's that problem of, I don't ever think the Matrix was written as a trilogy. It was written as a good original.
Yeah.
A one-off.
I believe.
Yeah, it was written as a one-off, and then the producers got hold of it, and the studio went, now make us more.
It's Joker syndrome. It's the Joker syndrome, isn't it? The first film I loved, the sequel, oh my God. Oh, painfully bad.
The second film was never meant to exist. The director himself came out and said, no, this is meant to be like a one-shot. It's almost like a what-if scenario, not an origin story. This is what if someone got pushed to the same to the brink, in the same way that Batman does, but the other way. And that's what was made it so beautiful. It was a real commentary on that aspect of, mental health and that stuff. Turning it into a musical in the second one just so you can get Lady Gaga in it, no, thank you.
But going back to Tron Legacy, because we're just going to be confusing the tadpoles.
Confusing ourselves, you silly old.
Exactly, I was going to say, and ourselves. But so Sam finds himself in the Tron universe, and he's basically taken hostage.
Well, he's accused of being a rogue program,
don't they? Yeah,
they think he's a program because he doesn't have a data disk, and he keeps saying, no, I'm a person, I'm Sam Flynn, but obviously no one believes him, despite the fact that they scan everyone.
Yes.
And he comes up as unknown, which automatically should have flagged him in some sort of system. Because
they do have a use for him, don't they?
They do. They have a punishment.
Gladiatorial.
Yes. You get to play the Tron version of squash, but it's lethal.
So he gets dressed up by the sirens, who take all his clothes and put him in the kind of.
One of the sirens as well is apparently a popular musician. Popular musician, I believe.
Right.
I've never heard of them.
No, one of them I know was in Smallville playing Zatanna. That's about all I know on the sirens.
Is that Bo Garrett?
Could be.
Because she plays Gem, which is one of the sirens. The other 3 are Surinder Swan, Yaya DaCosta.
Surinder Swan, sorry. Surinder Swan's.
And Elizabeth Mathis.
The thing that I noticed watching this film is I get the impression this was probably quite a smelly, sweaty set. What do you think?
No, because this set didn't exist.
But I mean, under the hot lights.
I think the sound. I think the sound stage that they were on that was completely green. It probably was. It probably was a very, very smelly, sweaty set. But you're not allowed to notice that.
Yeah, one of these wonderful form-fitting costumes.
The form-fitting costumes, and even because one of the weird comments is, you hear one of the sirens say he's not normal.
Yeah, he's different. Yeah.
Yeah, he's different, and it's like, well, clearly someone say something then. But no, they just equip him for battle and send him out there. So he works out what it is, because back in the intro we see that in the Tron universe,
yes, that's
Tron the game has a product placement.
Yes,
it has a toy line.
Yes.
So the Tron arcade game has a toy line in the Tron movie, which then also had its own toy line, which got really confusing. So meta. Sam very meta. So Sam knows what the game is just from being dropped in it, and then is almost dropped out of it because his opponent starts smashing the floor tiles.
Which I love that line though. Hey, I had a 3-inch version of you on my shelf.
Yeah, it was like, I have a 3-inch version of you on my shelf.
And when he throws the thing at me, he's going, he didn't do that.
Yeah, but he didn't do that. But that's what I mean. That was so, like, it's the early stages of the Joss Whedon script. You know, the witty comebacks. So Sam manages to not only win his first game, but escape. So he tries to escape, ends up being faced off by, I think the character's name is Rinsler.
Yeah, Rinsler, who's like now Rinsler's interesting because he's
the fully masked protagonist.
Yeah, uses 2 little discs, but he also, the noises he makes like weird clicking noises.
Well, they're almost animalistic.
Yeah, but they're also based on something I found out, which is the noises of a corrupted hard drive.
Ah, yes, the arm clicking. I know this because I have one, and it's in my PC clicking away at me.
Oh dear.
I've just got to work out which one of the 4 it is. But yeah, so he ends up facing off against Rinsler, who manages to slice Sam's leg, not drastically, but enough that a drop of blood lands on the court, which immediately he stops, grabs Flynn by the wrist, picks him, holds it upright, and points up to, like, there's a viewing gallery that's separate from all the other audience in the gladiatorial arena.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we find young Jeff Bridges, as he says, "User."
You've ruined it. Where was your build-up?
User.
Yes.
Oh no, I ruined a 15-year-old film that's not very good, even though
to explain, Clue is there all masked up, and when he's unmasked, we see Jeff Bridges, a young Jeff Bridges, who it was pointed out by Jeff Bridges himself, looked more like Bill Maher.
Yes. So Sam is brought to Clue,
mm-hmm.
but initially he thinks he's his dad. He thinks this is the real Flynn.
Yeah, you can understand that.
I kind of can and I can't, in the idea of he's happy to see him, but why he wouldn't question, okay, if you are my dad, why do you look 20 years younger? Why do you look like exactly the same as when you left?
Well, the theory or the idea when they were making the film is that he's not. That's the thing it doesn't work. The sad reality is it doesn't work. It's tech at the time. But the idea is that he wasn't supposed to be bang on Jeff Bridges when they made Tron. The idea is I think he was Jeff Bridges when they made like Against All Odds. They sort of based him on that outlook.
They were going for a slightly de-aged, but not, like you said, not baby-faced Jeff. Just somewhere in the middle, and it doesn't quite pull off.
It's sad because parts of it just look really weird.
It's very rubber facey, and again, as I said before, if any of the tadpoles are avid video gamers, they know exactly what I say when I say it's very motion capture. Do you remember the Final Fantasy film?
I've never seen it. It's not been on my radar.
It's motion capture, and if you watch the Final Fantasy film, it has nothing to do with the actual Final Fantasy plot, so you're not going to spoil it. You're not going to spoil it, but because of the way it was filmed with the motion capture and the CGI, that's all I could think of when I see young Jeff Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of slightly plastic, but also at the same time slightly plasticine faces. Mm-hmm. Where they're just not, it's like Uncanny Valley of the facial expressions aren't quite right. The eyes aren't quite right. Like everything seems to be over emoted even when it's not being, because the programs don't get the subtlety.
He did have to, he was on set for it. He did, play the part and he did whatever they had to do with his face. No,
nope.
he did on some of it, because I've definitely seen it. Background.
Well, yeah, not all of it. As I say, usually I think it was a body double.
Oh, but the talky bit. So, like, there's a scene later on in a bar, and that definitely is him, because I've seen the stuff. But we've digressed. So, yeah. So, Clue.
So, Clue introduces himself.
Yeah.
He is kind of aloof over, like, it's weird that he doesn't outright say that he's not his dad, but then and then he does, but he doesn't admit to why. I'll be honest with you, I really struggled trying to, normally I'm pretty good at, keeping track of what's going on. I just didn't care.
Well, I think what happened is he wanted information, didn't he, in relation to him. So he took his data disk and was looking over it because he could learn everything about him, basically.
Yeah, but because I think he was trying to do it to work out where old Flynn was.
Yes, to see what he could find out.
He didn't know, but he used his presence anyway, because he just said, right, well, I'll just put you in danger, which leads to the light cycle race.
Which is kind of, I mean, I enjoyed that. I suspect you probably didn't, but I liked that. But again, it did, when you look at it, you do think, well, they've got to do something with his ability to, ride a motorbike well.
Yeah, there had to be that callback to, we've seen him riding a bike very well. He evades a police officer in the very beginning of the film, the opening credits. So, and again, did you notice that the track uses jumps?
Yes.
And we are shown that he's very good at jumping motorcycles, because he jumps off the freeway onto the exit ramp to elude the officer at the beginning. And then it turns out on the light cycle track, the track does the same thing, where it splits into two levels above and below.
So I think the other thing is that the light cycles were like really beloved parts of Tron. So
absolutely.
To not reintroduce it, people would fans wouldn't have liked that. I mean, the other cool thing is that when you have all the gladiator arena and you've got the cheering crowd, they actually were when they'd announced Tron Legacy at a Disney event, they actually recorded the audience and said, right, we're going to get you in the film. You can, if you cheer when we ask and do what you ask, we're going to use your audio.
Fair enough. So he ends up. There was one funny line at this point which I did kind of giggle at, which is Clue's right-hand man, Jarvis, hands off the handlebars to both Sam, and Rinsler, and Sam picks it up and holds it like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And he goes, so what do I do with it? And Jarvis just leans in and says, I'll give you a clue. Not that.
Yeah, not that.
And that's it. And it did give me a little bit of a chuckle of, yes, I like the cattiness. Because he's clearly a bit of a slimy character, this Jarvis. So I expect a bit of sass from him.
But obviously they get through the lights, the light cycle race goes ahead. And it's going pretty well. Well,
it's a 5-on-5.
Most of them are all white. It goes well. Yeah. Most of them, I mean, it is good visually.
He convinces some of the other programs who are being punished to work with him, and it does start knocking off other players. The one thing I didn't like was in the original they were enclosed in their bikes.
Yeah.
The new bikes, you're exposed. So there's a scene where one of the good programs, or the blue team, as it were, gets punched by one of the opponents, who then just fiddles with his bike's controls to make him crash into the wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's a bit unsporting.
It is.
Come
rather.
On, but yellow card.
But as they're all getting, battered, it looks like it's going to be the end for Sam. Somebody else comes onto the grid in basically a car, the most all-terrain vehicle.
Yeah, we get the Deus Ex Machina of, is it Cora?
Yeah, because I mean that line I kind of like when you mention a SAS line is when they get out, they manage to leave the arena and they go off grid.
Yes.
And he's going like, "You're not going to make it," and it's just like that's the response of "made it."
Yeah. Well, her character is explained as to having a kind of childlike naivety.
Yes, totally.
But with a warrior personality. So she's played by Olivia Wilde, aka 13 from House.
With interesting, that's the only thing anyone ever wig.
In a very interesting wig.
Now, so much so that I've gathered on set after the film had been made, when they had like the after party, people didn't realise who she was.
No,
because they've been so used to her looking at like as Cora. They were like, "Who is this?"
In the run up to this, I was convinced this was Charlize Theron. And that was because of at the same time, Charlize Theron made Aeon Flux.
Yes.
Which is a very similar but not quite, and I just blended the two together. This is how much I cared about Tron Legacy. I just kind of didn't even bother looking up who the cast was. So I was convinced it was Charlie Thermidor, but apparently not. It's Olivia Wilde, and yeah, she's so she rescues Sam, drives off grid. We get a comment about how the fact that none of their vehicles, as in Clues, will work off grid, but hers will, because, as we discover, she lives in a tower house with the Big Lebowski.
Correct, the dude. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not the Big Lebowski. It's the Big Lebowski. Is the big old Lebowski. It's the dude.
This is the Skywalker dude.
Well, this is basically just Jeff Bridges almost playing himself, which I'm starting to get slowly convinced he's doing in a lot of films now.
I think, again, it's like Harrison Ford. He's just doing it for the paycheck. He's phoning it all in. Correct. I want to be comfy. So yeah, we find the real Flynn, played by a age-accurate Jeff Bridges. Although,
I have to ask your view on this one. I'm convinced sometimes that beard isn't real.
No, I don't know whether that was a situation of possible reshoots.
Yeah.
And he may have had to have done, like, he may have been doing another project at the same time.
But I also wonder, because he would have, when he had like the funny headset thing on when they're doing the de-aging, he's got the dots all over his face. Maybe to be able to do it all, because I guess they'd be doing things around the same time and stuff. Maybe they just had to have him beard free.
Yeah, make him shave so that they can get the sensors, the tracking right, and then don't worry, we'll add it in post. Post his beard on.
And he goes like, you can imagine he'd go mental talking to himself on set, but but yeah, it's kind of, I do find it kind of cool when you see the real Flynn, Kevin Flynn, and he's in there and he gets to meet his son, and it's the heartwarming moment where they recognise time has passed. You know, that thing if you've got bigger, and he's like, yeah, and you've got older.
Yeah, but it's still it's that weird thing of Jeff Bridges, like old Flynn. Well, let's call him Flynn Skywalker because it makes it easier. Flynn Skywalker, he doesn't express any guilt, which really threw me because he explains it like, you spend so long down here and you forget about wants and desires. It's like, dude, you abandoned your family.
Well, he does express, but he does express guilt later on.
Yeah, but only because of the coup that Clue did. He expresses regret at that.
I mean, yeah, you're right. You would kind of look at it, but you do have to. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one.
You don't abandon your 7-year-old kid. Like, but the plot reason is because if Jeff went back on grid, Clue would know immediately where he was and capture him and possibly kill him, or because Clue's big overall is he wants to take over the world.
Yes.
And he knows that with the portal, he can get out, be given a corporeal form, and then, instill his will upon the masses.
But I just want to reverse for a minute and say one of the scenes I absolutely love. One of the scenes I absolutely love is when Cora is, he's going through things, showing the apartment.
Are we going to talk about the bookshelf?
The bookshelf, I love it, because that's a very childlike thing, isn't it?
Well, that's the one thing I said. That line of, "Do you know Jules Verne?" Yes, I know him. What's he like?
Yeah.
And again, with Olivia Wilde's face, she manages to get the wide-eyed, genuine kind of, like the wide-eyed interest of a child. Like, what's he like?
She's got really expressive eyes, hasn't she?
Yeah.
It really helps, which I think is probably one of the things that helped her with the role. These big eyes.
Big eyes, which I have to admit, the lilac contacts she wears are quite. They do make it even. They do draw you to her eye even more so than just her normal eyes. But yeah. So Flynn Senior is basically explaining, like, this was all part of Clue's plan to drag him here, because again, basically we discover that Sam kind of caused all the problems in the first place, because we discover that the portal can only be opened from the outside.
And he, of course, did that, responding to the page that had never.
Yes, that's when we discover
come from Dad.
The page didn't come from Dad; it came from Clue. And now that the portal is open, it will remain open for, I think he says, a cycle?
Yeah.
So they've got like 8 hours to get back to it and escape. Otherwise, Sam is going to be in the same situation as his dad. So that's when.
I also find it very funny when they sat down having dinner. I mean, why did they have dinner? But obviously that's to allow them to have conversations. Well, where basically, Flynn is saying to his son, "So you dropped out of university?"
Yeah. So did you go to college?
Yeah, he doesn't look impressed by that.
Yeah, you went to my alma mater. Yeah, until I dropped out. What? Yeah.
But he does like the fact he's got a dog. I like that bit as well. Kid, no, got a dog. Okay, dogs are cool.
All right, let's just start. But yeah, we discovered that Flynn discovered that essentially the grid is now spawning its own creation, known as ISOs.
Yeah, yes.
The isomorphic algorithms, which are free of disease, free of illness, basically the perfect being, because there's a lot of God analogies in this film.
Yes.
Which, again, that's what makes me say it's like baby's first Matrix, because Matrix went for the God analogy as well, eventually towards the end. So, yeah, he explains about... so Flynn Sr. explains that, we've found these ISOs. Clue massacred them all because he saw them as problematic. Yeah. Because...
They didn't fit with his idea of what he'd been told to do.
Yeah, it didn't fit with his commands because of the way that Flynn had programmed him when he was a kid, or when he was younger.
Yeah.
Because that's the big... one of the biggest kind of drives in the plot is wisdom comes with age. We can't have everything the way we want it, no matter how much we fight and that kind of thing. And so they work out, right? So they need Flynn Senior's data disk to open the portal.
Yes. So they can get out and then close it from the human side, shall we say, the real world.
Yeah. So,
but Flynn kind of doesn't want to do anything. He's gets frozen by fear, isn't he? Really?
I think it's more which Flynn? Senior or junior?
Senior Flynn. Young Flynn's just like, gung-ho, let's go, man.
Yeah, well, he wants to get out because he knows, again, it's that weird thing of he knows he's a human, therefore has more, that's the kind of thing that gets me, is I feel like the film never really addressed the fact that Flynn Sr. has almost forgotten his humanity. Yeah,
I was going to say he's been in there that long as he's forgetting
that
his fate.
Yeah, when it's like, no, you can leave.
Yeah,
you should get out, and go somewhere, do something else. But yeah,
well, yes, the way to get out is that initially it looks like basically Sam's going to be stuck with his dad and Cora living in their kind of cool Zen apartment. But in a wonderful callback to the original, you've got all this great new technology you see, but what's the one thing that's going to be the fastest, most badass thing that's in there?
His original
light cycle.
Yeah. Yep. I have to admit, again, and it was nice to see that it was a physical prop.
Yes.
Because it's in the apartment studio that they've got. So it is nice to see that callback. And again, it's an enclosed canopy, and they do the
rain, yes, of course. Because when it goes, the enclosed canopy, the beauty is you see a rain effect, which I really like. You get the
raindrops on it, which is, I'll admit, it was nice. And then I remembered, where have I seen that before? Oh yeah, other good films. So it's,
He's so angry, isn't he, Tadpole? So angry, such rage. If he was here, I mean, my monitor's almost melting with the heat.
I'm going to rename this stream as Stafford Strikes Back. Because he's done it again. This is 2 hours of my life I'm not getting back.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, well.
For another bridge comment.
So what happens is Flynn steals Senior's bike. And
because
goes to
he
visit.
Thinks,
he's told. He's told by Cora of a man called Zeus. It's a program who can provide safe passage to the portal, and he is at a club called the End of the Line Club.
Yep. Call back to the original.
Yep, and the owner. Who is played kind of almost to the point of absurdity, Michael Sheen.
He's basically playing Bowie.
Yeah, he's doing his best David Bowie impression as a kind of androgynous club owner.
And looks like Bowie.
He looks a lot like Bowie, although because I like him in Good Omens, I keep thinking Aziraphale's really gone off the wagon. Because he's also still dressed in white.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've gathered that Michael Sheen loved Tron, really loved it, and was basically told, we want you in a part, and his agent had to tell him to shut up, because he was almost going to do it for free.
Yeah, he was like, I don't care what you want me to do, I'll shave my head, I will lop off an arm if you need to, I'll do it for free, shut up. Yeah, he was quite the fan. So yeah. So he goes and meets him with the aid of one of the sirens.
One of the sirens.
One of the sirens.
Is she called? Gem?
I think that is. Yeah, I think Gem is the what. Yeah. So she takes Sam to meet Foos, who it turns out is an alter ego of the club owner, because he goes by two names. So he's introduced initially as the owner of the club, and he's as Castor. So Castor owns the End of the Line Club, and he is the purveyor of entertainment for programs everywhere. It also turns out
who knew that programs have sex with prostitutes? Hey, we learned something new.
I'm still getting over the fact that there was a roasted hog on the Flynn table. I'm like,
they eat, don't they? That's the other thing that's very strange.
They eat, they drink. I'm like, what are you drinking? What are you eating? Where's the farm? At least do a flyover shot of digital pigs.
Yeah, squealing.
And do electric sheep. Dream.
Very true. Do they? Dream?
We'll have to ask Philip K. Dick. So yeah. So.
I mean, the club's pretty cool, and it also has its own resident DJs in the full costume.
Yeah, who do the stereotypical thing of the guards burst in, we're gonna change the music, and just keep going.
I mean, obviously, I don't think you like the soundtrack to this, but I really like the soundtrack to this film.
I didn't notice it. I just didn't pick up on any of it. And I promise you, this is not like, I was focused on this film. I had my notepad out as usual, and I just, so much of it just washed over me. Like, I just don't care.
Wow.
I had to keep resisting to minimize it and go and watch something else on YouTube.
Well, you did well. I'm proud of you. We're getting there. We're in the final stretch. To fill out or something like that. But I mean, we end up with a club fight because it basically turns out that Zeus has he double crosses. He double crossed every. Well, I think he double and treble crosses everybody and just.
No, he plans. He tries. He double crosses Sam by calling him in, and then by calling in Clue. He then
when
tries
I say treble crossing, is the fact that there's other people there who want him, and I think he's messing them around as well.
Well, I'm probably going for highest bidder, but again,
correct.
It's more that he wants to secure his place, because there's also there's rumblings of that Clue is fully aware of what he's doing, and that he's been, getting people to the portal. So I think it's kind of he wants
to control the city, doesn't he? I think.
Yeah, it's like, you have control of the world. Just give me my fair share.
Yes.
To which Clue responds with explosives.
Well, we've got ahead. So the fight happens, and Cora comes to save him, but she ends up getting her arm chopped off, and goes into like stasis lock. Now
goes into shock.
At that point, it's bad. Everything's going horribly wrong, but it's all right because
Michael Sheen is dancing and firing lasers from his walking stick.
And Flynn appears to save the day, and he changes everything. Because I was thinking about this for the programs. For them, this is basically God's just landed in front of them, hasn't it? Yes. Their creator has literally just landed in front of them.
The creator who has been
bowing to him, don't you?
Pushed up. Because one of the things is because he says he's Sam Flynn, and the room goes silent.
Yeah.
Like he's just committed a mass sin, because you don't speak of the creator, because Clue won't let you, because Clue doesn't want people knowing about old Flynn. So the fact that old Flynn turns up like a Jedi in robes that are illuminated on the inside.
Yeah, looking badass.
I mean, well, certainly bad. I wouldn't say badass. But yeah, and so Flynn shows up, Senior shows up as a kind of distraction, manages to get hold of Cora and Sam, but loses his data disk to Clue in the melee.
And he goes into major shock though, doesn't he? Because when they get into a lift that starts plummeting, and you can kind of see that old Flynn is just like he's gone a bit. Whereas he has the ability in the end, 'cause he programs it and stops it, but you can see he's just like he goes into shock, doesn't he?
I think he's more worried. Like he's realised how far it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think he ever, because I think part of me is they try and show that Senior, because he lived on the edge and off grid for his own safety, he didn't get to see the extent to which the world had turned, like Clue's conviction. I think that's what scared him, was seeing what Clue was actually capable of and willing to do to reach his end goal. And then you've got the guilt of, well, I programmed him. Did I really act? Because again, it's that idea of not only is it his program, it's his likeness.
Mm-hmm.
Is he seeing that when he was that young, was he that naive? This is where the whole with age comes wisdom kind of plot line comes from. Because now, as an older man, he understands, we're talking to the ISOs and trying to save them before they were all massacred by Clue. He has that epiphany. And I think that's what's affecting him, is he's coming to realize his mistake early on when he was programming Clue. And it's that I think it's more of it's him showing guilt and regret for not programming him properly, but at the same time he's kind of missing the wood for the trees. So he's like, oh, I should have programmed him properly. But wait, I only know that now because I'm 20 years older. There's no way I could have known that without the life experience. So it's kind of like a feedback loop of, I want to fix it, but I couldn't have fixed it back then. But how do I fix it now? We've gone so far. He's worried about Cora, even though he manages to.
He does fix her.
He fixes her. He fiddles with her DNA.
Yeah.
Which is his program.
Yeah. And he sees like he has like a cool little thing where like is a little butterfly thing flies off.
Yeah, he pulls the damage code
strands. Yeah,
pulled the damage code from her DNA and just throws it away, and it just turns into a butterfly and flaps off. Because they're on a solar like sail barge.
Yeah, which they hop. Because he talks about hopping freight trains.
Yes, it's like jumping on a freight train. So they're just following it as close as they can. And,
they do have a night, like, while Cora's
rebooting.
Yeah. I do love the little scene where they're catching up. You only see a smidgen of it, and he's talking to him about, like, his bike, and he's going, what do you mean you didn't, like, look after my bike properly? You mashed my bike up.
Because you see it in the corner, you see it covered in dust, and he's like, well, I had to learn how to ride it, and I fell off.
And he's talking about, like, dust and not being covered in a tarp. But he addresses the fact he's saying, my parents, obviously died. Kevin Flynn Sr. saying that he's going, they unfortunately passed away. And the moment of levity I like is he's telling him about new tech stuff, and he says Wi-Fi. He goes, what's Wi-Fi? So he describes it to me. He goes, I thought of that in like the 80s.
Yeah, it's like, what? You're only just getting that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've been looked at the program for 20 years, you daft sod.
Yeah.
We could have had flying cars by now, but no. Well, if Kevin
hadn't been locked in the system, man, you would have had everything.
But no, someone had to go play Sim City.
For real, yeah.
He had his own personal Sim City, and he got a bit lost.
But as he moves on, we get to see a lovely little conversation between Sam and Cora, where he's trying to describe sunset and the real world to her.
Sunrises. And
sunrises in the real world. Sorry.
And he has that. He does have the one good line of, "I've never had to think about describing it."
Yeah, which is true. How would you describe it? Somebody who doesn't know it.
Well, a big giant ball of plasma that's 3 million light years. Well, I think it's 3 million light years. No. I think it's just 3 million miles away from us, orbits us, and gives us a nice warm glow. You get a bit of a tan. You go red if you stay in it too long, and whatever you do, don't stare at it. You'll go blind.
That's true. But but we get to see. So we've got all that going on, the nice stuff. But the problem is we have the flip side of what is Clue up to, and frankly, he's amassing a giant army. We're getting to very Nazi territory at this point.
Yes, I was going to say.
Fair, it's Nazi/Star Wars Empire.
Because we discover Clue doesn't actually have the power to delete a program, but he can repurpose. So what he's been doing is he's been taking all the programs that like don't have data disks and basically reprogramming them into his army, and he's amassing them. He's amassing them onto like a flagship that he's going to take to. I don't know whether he's going to take it through the portal, because he gets hold of Flynn's data disk in the Flynn Senior's. Now Flynn Senior's data disk is the key to it all. That's how you get off the grid. And they place Senior's data disk into a central console of the flagship, and I'm assuming they're going to fly it into the portal, at which point a ship is going to appear in his basement.
Yeah. Or somewhere within the real world.
That's all I can think of. So we discover as the three are making their escape. No, hang on. So Cora sacrifices herself.
She does. I was about to say that because she takes herself out of the equation, doesn't she, by getting herself taken prisoner to leave the
I'm
other two.
Removing myself from the equation. But before she does, she hands off a data disk to Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets captured by Rinzler. So
at which point we have a massive, because obviously the big plot thing is that Rinzler has these 2 discs that he fights with, and
because
old Flynn is observing this, and he suddenly realizes
it's the first time old Flynn has ever seen Rinzler.
Yes.
And the last time he saw someone using 2 data disks was during the coup, when he thought that the program of Tron, where played by a de-aged
Bruce
Boxleitner, used 2 data disks in combat, and he's like, again, he couldn't kill him. He reprogrammed. So it turns out that Rinzler is Tron.
Yeah.
Who is
with a major hard drive problem, like I said, it clicks and whirs.
Yeah. So it turns out that Rinzler / Tron captures Olivia Wilde, takes her off to basically take her to Clue. This is when Obi-Wan Flynn disables the force field and Jedi mind tricks a guard.
I love how he does that.
A ship.
How he types on the program.
I do, yeah. The hack of the data disk I like. It's the reboot, the hard reboot. It's
it's literally a hard reboot.
He just thumps him on top of the head when he says, "Who are you? You shouldn't be here." Donk. I'm taking the ship. Mind the gap, sir.
Yeah, it basically becomes very compliant. He's like, look after yourself, sir.
So, because they've captured Cora, they have the data disk. Clue thinks that there's nothing can be done. Like, he can't be beaten. So he gives his Third Reich speech,
which has a really cool moment though when he's talking to them all, and he makes the comment of, "Kevin Flynn, where are you now?" Just as they're crossing the bridge, and you see Kevin Flynn.
Yeah,
what?
So he look, and he kind of, it's that thing of he looks up as he's doing it, because it's like he's shouting to the heavens and saying like, "Where's your God now? Oh, he's up there. Oh no."
But he doesn't see him, of course, does he? But it's that look of holy shit on Kevin Flynn's face.
Yeah. Because Kevin's never seen how bad he's gotten. So Kevin and Sam separate. As I say, Kevin gets a backup ship. Sam goes to rescue Cora.
And they both don't. They don't really like. Well, Kevin doesn't like the idea of Sam going off to do his own thing, but he basically says, he accepts it, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like, look, well, either way, I've got to go up there for the data disk. I might as well try and save Cora at the same time. So Sam goes up, beats up 2 of the guards. Then we have the stereotypical. He goes into a control room. The doors seal. The workstations seal. Those little cones come over the operators.
I like the way the operators just lock themselves out, like, nope, not dealing with it.
Yeah, they all just look at him and then look up at the ceiling, open their mouths like they're screaming, and a hose pipe comes down and basically locks them into their workstation until the danger has passed. So we hear, it's one of those things where we cut to the bridge of the flagship. Jarvis, who is Clue's right-hand man, he's just sat on the bridge. Hears all the noise and the discs bouncing around, and then we see Sam walk in, and he gives the old salute.
Yeah, he basically tries to suck up to Sam, obviously.
Yeah,
and it's also the Jarvis has very creepy elements, doesn't he? Because like going back to when they're in the bar and Clue basically bumps off, Zeus.
Yes.
There's a creepy look between Jem and Jarvis, where he looks at her to try and, I don't know, maybe a bit seductively, and she dismisses him.
Yeah, she eye rolls him into oblivion. Yeah,
again, very... that's again with the whole club. Just going back to that scene with the whole club and the line, it's a throwback to the original with the end of the line scene and kablooey.
But yeah, it's very much like Grimmer Wormtongue kind of character. from Lord of the Rings. So he's a slimy little advisor. He's only out for himself, and we see this in that he's like praise the users. Sam just kind of ignores him, takes the data disk and leaves.
Yeah.
And he manages to save Olivia Wilde because Tron confronts him, Sam, that is, in the control room. And he manages to delay Tron long enough that he can take. We discover that that Clue has these jump packs that look like butterfly wings.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I found that an interesting design. I'm not sure why they went with that, but there must be a reason.
Yeah, I can only think of maybe butterfly effect because it's chaos theory.
Could be.
And chaos theory is used in programming because it's the idea of like cascade problems with programs. You can put one slight code wrong here and it can shut down the entire system because it leads to a cascade. So there's that kind of possibility. But so he grabs these wings, grabs Cora, jumps out of the bridge with the data disk.
Ties into me and a badass, base jumper dude.
Yeah, and he's like, "Where did you learn that?" "Oh, I did it yesterday."
Encom Tower. And he's like, Encom Tower.
Yeah, because he doesn't realize his bit. What was a pokey little business is now a giant tower.
He does seem quite impressed by that, Flynn, doesn't he? To find out that's happened. Like, okay.
No, yeah. And again, it makes me wonder: is he starting to remember that he is a person and not God?
Yes.
Yes, he's God of this little world, but he's not. It's not the end of the world. If this, he's just kind of got lost in his own perspective, kind of thing. But it leads to the final chase scene, and I will grant it, the plane that they go into is gorgeous.
And it's also, I know I've mentioned it a few times, the flashback moment, but when he lets Cora pilot, so it's on the wrist, which is a nice flashback to the original. Yeah.
And they've, again, the updated versions of the, what are they called? Is it MGRs?
Pass.
The basically the leg ships.
Oh, those, yeah. I like again, they were, the way they'd updated those are really good as well. I like that.
Yeah. So Clue catches up, kills Jarvis because he realizes he's a slimy little nothing. Well, it's more the fact of as well is if he's alive, he didn't put up a fight.
Well, that's the thing. You'd look at Jarvis
angry,
and go,
so he just
you
takes
didn't do anything. Yeah, Jarvis, you didn't meet my needs here. What's the point of having you around?
So he takes it out on him, kills him. They grab their own jump packs. They jump out the window in pursuit, and then they pull out the second of the new vehicles, which is the single-person fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So they work the same way as the bikes do, the new light bikes, in that they have handlebars that they separate in midair and the ship forms around them. And then we get a World War II dogfight.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of...
that was a bit left field.
Time was the tail gunner.
Yeah. So Sam is forced to become a tail gunner in a B-52.
Which he's not too bad at,
Which he's not. Which again, he makes a comment on, because this I can do, because again, it's an element from the arcade game.
And reality, yeah.
And reality, again, it's no worse than any other kind of tower defense game. So he does quite well, takes down a few, and it gets down to Clue, Rinsler, and a heavily damaged ship with our protagonists on. Sam's guns no longer function. Jam. Well, he says they jam, but you can clearly see one of them's missing. So I think he's not quite understood the tutorial. I think he pressed skip. So they're not really jammed as much as fucking missing. But this is where Tron manages to break through his programming slightly.
Yeah, because he and Flynn lock eyes.
Yes.
And he says to him, like, Tron, what have they done to you?
Yeah. And it just kind of causes him to glitch out for a second. but enough to crash into Clue.
Yeah, because he says, like, I fight for the user.
Yeah, it's a call again. It's that callback of he remembers his original coding. He's having a bit of a glitch, so he crashes into him, and they crash into the sea of simulation.
And interestingly, again, when they crash into the sea of simulation, he goes back to his original color scheme as well.
Only briefly before he drowns.
Yes,
which is a bit of a sad thing. But the other thing he does as well is Clue. When they crash into one another, when Rinsler/Tron and when Tron and Clue crash into one another, their ships disintegrate, but they don't. They actually end up free falling, and Clue manages to grab hold of Tron and steal his wings.
Yes.
So that he can parachute, and it unfortunately means that Tron lands into the water. But yeah, as he's sinking, you slowly see that he remembers who he is, and his color scheme changes from orange to
blue.
To blue. I did love the fact that Clue had a slightly different hue of orange, so you could tell which one was him.
Yes, that's true. That is true.
And the dude was white. Flynn Sr. was the only white one. Everyone else was different shades of blue.
Yeah, that is true.
And yeah. So we finally, they just about managed to land at the portal.
It's looking good at this point.
Yeah,
it's looking good. The chances are good. They're getting to the bridge that they need to, the big bridge for the portal.
We get the Emperor's New Groove scene where it turns out that Clue has gotten in front of them, and I was just thinking, how? And the reason I call it the Emperor's New Groove is because that's actually a plot hole in the Emperor's New Groove where they're like, how did you get in front of us? I don't know. We can't work it out ourselves, but we're here. So
just one of those things, man. It just happened. But I think like the little line between Flynn and Clue, where he's saying like, the cycles have been like bad to you about them getting old, and he goes, I don't think you look too. The Flynn says, I don't think you look too bad.
Yeah, I've seen worse. So yeah, it feels like it's going to be the final fight. Cora manages to, she takes a data disk from Flynn Sr. and manages to flip herself around and behind Clue. So Clue's in the middle.
Like a rope thing, hasn't she, that she finds that allows her to swing herself round.
So Clue ends up like Piggy in the middle. So we've got Senior on one side and we've got Sam and Cora now.
Cora on the other.
On the other. And as Sam and Cora start moving back to the portal, Clue gets hold of what he thinks is
the correct data
disk because he gets it off Senior. And just as he holds it up to see what it is, it turns out Cora and Senior swap data disks. So,
but it's also the fact that we see at that point, Clue is basically saying to him, I did everything you asked him. I was creating this perfect world.
He goes for a hug.
Yeah, well, Flynn's saying to him, but I didn't. Well, as you alluded to, he's saying, but I didn't know it wasn't perfect. It's it's things are unknowable.
Yes.
You can kind of see why Clue's annoyed, and not just annoyed, he's enraged because he's doing what he thought he was supposed to do.
He's doing what he was told to do, and because it's a weird kind of duality of that Clue, he knows he's a program, but at the same time, he also knows that he can be given new orders. So why, when Flynn started acting human towards the ISOs, and it was a corrupt, it's a conflict. It's a conflict of commands with no, Clue is very logical because he is a logic program. He needs to know, if Flynn had just explained it to him and saying, this is an exception.
Yeah.
To, just that would have diverted the entire plot of it. The ISOs are a new thing. It's exempt from all previous commands. That's all they have to do, make an exception in a source code. And it probably wouldn't have happened. But yeah, so Flynn Sr. musters the last of his force powers.
But it's well before that. It's when he says to him, "Why, you're going to do all this, and why would you do all this?" It's Clue saying to him, he goes, "Well, it's my son."
Yeah.
Which is quite an emotional kind of point of the film where you see that Flynn is basically willing to sacrifice everything for his son.
Well, I almost think that's the moment he remembers that he is a human, not a programmer. Like he needs to be better.
Yeah.
And that's where he says, "Yeah, of course I'm going to do this for my son. My son means more to me."
And it's, as you said, he goes and it comes to the point where, Sam is trying to obviously persuade him to, well, he doesn't want him to, because he knows he's going to sacrifice himself.
Yeah,
he's the only one who can basically shut it all down. But you've seen because Cora says to Sam, this is what he wanted. And you see I guess the human element, as you say, where he has a flashback to Sam as a child. He says, like, "Goodbye, kiddo."
Yeah.
And it's that point where it looks like Clue is gonna, because he's bridged the gap, and because the bridge is like,
the bridge that goes to the portal separates. He jumps the gap, and just makes it. So Flynn Senior sacrifices himself by reintegrating Clue
into him. Yeah.
So he manages to hold him back while Sam and Cora enter the portal.
See, I always found this quite an emotional point in the story, where you're seeing, him basically sacrificing everything to close it all, but also to protect his son and allow his son to leave. And I find that quite a touchy-feely moment of the film.
Unfortunately, I was just going along the lines, so he's got force powers now, right?
Yeah, James's heart is cold, like a piece of coal.
Yeah. Well, my family were coal miners. Shut your face. It's a serious medical condition. No, I mean, I'm a parent. I know that thing of, yes, I would do anything for my child, but I have no sympathy for Flynn Senior, because this was all of his own doing. He acknowledges he spent too many nights in the office. It's like, yeah, so you should have to sacrifice yourself. Go for it. So yeah, the film ends with Sam coming back to Earth. Turns out Cora is now in a human body. How he's going to explain that, I'll never know.
Yeah, she's never going to get a national insurance number.
No, she was literally born yesterday.
And we also see Alan Bradley again.
Yep, because he gets another page.
Yeah, but this time it's from Sam.
Yeah.
And I have to admit this is where I do find the ending element of this annoying, where it's like, I'm taking back control. Yes, of course you are, Sam.
He claims he's going to take back control of the company. He backs up the grid, so he's got the copy of it from
unlike a wee data disk looking thing, isn't it?
It looks like an SD card. It looks like an SD card that someone's bejeweled with like a gold ink Sharpie.
And then you finally, the final shot is both Cora and Sam on his motorbike, and she gets to see the sunrise. I
believe that's his dad's bike.
Ah, right. Oh, okay.
Like because in the beginning his bike, I believe he honors his dad by fixing his old bike.
That makes sense. I never got that one, but I never noticed it. But yeah, that does make sense.
I think it is.
Kawasaki's on.
I think so. I think
you're right.
Kawasaki.
Yes,
so.
You're spot on. You will be right there. Yeah.
It's his dad's bike that he's fixed up, and yeah, she gets to see and feel her first sunrise, and I vomited in a bucket.
Well, I mean, what he's not telling you is he didn't just vomit in the bucket. He actually filled the bucket over, and it went out and put all over the floor.
Yeah, but I've got tiles, so it's fine.
So obviously you were not a fan, but that's cool. If we all like the same thing, that would be well, it would be right. It would be boring. I mean, I loved it, but I still kick myself for not enjoying the visual element of seeing it on a humongous screen. So I know for a fact if they do one of these things where they show all three,
like a 20th anniversary or
but when like Ares comes out, if they do a run where they show Tron Legacy and Tron Ares in like succession, I will be there because I just want to experience the whole massive visual presentation of it. I mean, I can't work out what they do. We're going off base. We're coming to the end, tadpoles, don't worry. But I can't
do that.
I can't quite get my head around what Ares is going to be, because I know the idea is that they're coming into the real world. I think it's Jared Leto's character is coming to the real world and things are crossing over. But there seems to have been so little information given about it. I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't think they know.
Yeah,
but
I wonder if it's just soft reboot. I know Bridges is in it, but I think it's just like a cameo.
Well, the weird thing's going to be, it's like, if they don't bring it out soon, they're not going to have, they're not going to have much. They're not going to have much time.
Yeah, I know that they drop the stuff at D23, the Disney Expo, but for some reason, I don't know if they've been really slow on releasing trailers and things from D23. It's strange.
Right. So it's basically, so
everything's ready. They've done a huge presentation. I've seen like bootleg stuff online because they've shown videos. Nine Inch Nails are doing the soundtrack. They've shown a trailer, but this is like 8 months ago or something, and we've not had any official release. And I find that really weird.
It's due out next. It's due out next month, next year.
Yeah.
But the sole synopsis we've got is the idea that a program is sent into the real world on a dangerous mission.
Yeah.
But
I assume it's Leto's character.
Yes. Which is, again, you're going to have to put up with Jared Leto being a lead character.
I feel really sorry for Jared Leto.
I don't.
He's gone from being right high up, Oscar winning, to like, it's just like everything they keep putting him in, he's not doing well anymore.
Well, again, I don't think I've ever seen anything. I've never seen him in anything where I've actually enjoyed his performance. Like he's a standout character.
Well, the thing is, if you think about where he won an Oscar, he wasn't like he was head of the bill either.
No.
So maybe it's better being supporting.
Yeah, that's what, he's just not a leading man, because he's very good at doing like certain roles.
Yeah, I can see.
So it's a case of it's not his ability, it's not him it's not his acting ability, it's his.
It's what they're giving him, I guess.
Ability to fit certain roles.
Yeah.
Because again, Morbius.
God, Morbius was
Joker.
Awful. Well, I liked him as the Joker. I think if we'd actually seen the full extent of what he should have done, because we never saw the full extent, it could have been quite different.
No, it looked like, the first Suicide Squad, he looked awful, and second Suicide Squad, the Snyder Cut of Justice League was just not my cup of tea.
Fair enough. I mean, I loved all of them, but, hey, if we were all the same, we'd be boring.
Yeah.
I think, though, I would say we've been talking enough Codswallop on this one, because Gemma will tan our hides, because we're coming up to nearly an hour and a half.
She said that's our new limit. We're allowed to do an hour and a half.
That's what she wants you to think.
I know. She wants 45 minutes, I know. But
So Salty Tadpoles, thank you all for listening. I think we've been talking of celluloid Codswallop for this Codswallop even for this episode.
Wait! Before we go.
Yes.
Next poll.
Yep.
Due to my casting cock-up, we are still going to do a pick of Charlize Theron films, even though she's not in this one, just because that woman has never made a good film. So I can't wait to see which one Mush picks here. So you've got to pick one, I've got to pick one, and then we'll throw those up for the poll, and then Tadpoles can add as well if they wish. But so the next one's going to be a Charlize Theron picture. That's going to be interesting.
A Charlize Theron off, yeah. Well, I'll have to have a good think. I'm honestly trying to think of what I've seen her in. Yeah, I'll have to have a think on that one.
I know my pick. Okay. But I'll tell you when you've made yours.
We'll hold off. So,
yeah.
On that note, we have definitely been talking of celluloid Codswallop. I've been James.
And I've been other James. And that's a wrap.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.